This is TWiT.
I'm curious, Lori Gill, when the AirPods first came out, you and I were having a conversation, and you said to me, how do they feel for you? I had mentioned that I was watching like several episodes of The Office, I think it was, and I had said, they don't hurt my ears. I kind of have had them in for a few hours as I'm watching The Office, and they aren't giving me any pain. However, for you, the first and second generation of AirPods did kind of give you some pain issues. Have you had the opportunity to try the new AirPods Pro? Oh, Snapski.
Look at that.
They're in her ears.
Let me tell you, Micah, I'm so excited to talk about this. I've loved the idea of AirPods since they came out, and they've been a fresh source of frustration for me because of the pain they bring. I get about a half an hour's worth of use before I start to feel a little bit of an ache in my ear. And then after about an hour's use, it really starts to really hurt. And I'm pulling them out and putting them back in and, kind of messing with my ears to give them a little bit of safe softness. By 2 hours, I have head fatigue. I start to feel, pressure all over my whole head, and not quite a headache, but it's just more like head fatigue. So I pop in AirPods Pro, honestly thinking it's probably still going to be just as uncomfortable. I have multiple times worn these for the 4.5 hours that you can get out of battery life straight. No pain, no problem whatsoever. It's the best feeling in the world. I love AirPods Pro so much.
Yay. What size ear tips are you using? Or is that too personal?
I'm using the small ear tips, and they come with the default ear tips. Mm-hmm. I popped those in, and it said, "This is a good seal. This is a good fit, or good seal." Mm-hmm. And I thought, I doubt that. So I went and I switched over to the smaller tips, the size small, put those in, and it said the same thing, that this is a good fit too. So anybody who is about to get AirPods Pro, or even if you have them in your ears right now and you used the size that Apple says is a good seal, that doesn't mean that it's a comfortable fit, right? Because all it's telling you is that with that particular tip in your ear, the seal is tight for active noise canceling. Mm-hmm. You might find a larger or smaller ear tip is more comfortable for you. So test out all three of them and figure out which one feels comfortable and has the right seal to it. The comfort level is absolutely extraordinary. And I had this amazing experience yesterday. I've been testing. I've got my review halfway done. It should be done today and up on iMore by tomorrow at the latest. I was outside while somebody was using a leaf blower, and they're basically like one of the loudest pollutants for the size of a machine that they are, right?
Yeah, right. It's so small, and yet it's
environmental pollutants. Right. They're really loud. I was about 12 feet away from a leaf blower. I even looked at my Apple Watch to check the noise app, and yes, it was it was around 77. It sometimes hit 80. So it was loud. The environment outside was loud. I was standing that close, and it sounded more like I was inside a house with all of the doors shut and in a room with the doors shut, and the leaf blower was across the street. It was barely audible. I could tell that it was there. I didn't have to turn up my music that I was listening to. I could still hear my music just fine, even though the leaf blower was about 12 feet away from me. It was incredible how well these tiny little things were canceling out that loud noise.
That's awesome. So I suggest that folks start with the smallest ear tip. Even though it comes with the medium, put the smallest ear tip click them onto the AirPods, and then try those out first and see if the seal is good. And then if the thing says no, then go up from there. So starting at the smallest and working your way up is probably better than if you start at the medium size, and because you've squished it into your ear canal, it's going to have that fit. I have had a similar experience. I have not had too much of an issue with the pain in the past. But as far as it goes, I've been very impressed. I've used Amazon's new Echo Buds and had those since, I think, Monday or Tuesday of the week that AirPods Pro came out, and the Boise noise cancellation, the Bose noise cancellation is pretty good, but in comparison to Apple's ANC, I've been genuinely impressed. And I think part of it, honestly, is the way that Apple like ramps up the ANC. It's almost like someone's blowing a bubble around you, and then suddenly the bubble surrounds you, and it's like this whoosh, and then you can't hear the stuff that's out. So I've been really enjoying them, and I've been using them with the transparency feature as well whenever I'm in environments. In fact, I was using them this morning while I was getting ready for iOS Today, and I was able to still hear everything but listen to music at the same time, and that was quite nice. I've seen generally good reviews of AirPods Pro, and I'm curious, gentlemen, have either of you tried them out yet? Are you using them? Are you interested?
I haven't tried them yet because my uses are multi-platform enough that I feel as though I have to wait until spring to see what other $250 earbuds I can get that might work as well for my uses. So I haven't tried them yet. I'm really curious to see, like Micah and Lori, like how essential is it to get a really good fit on those ear tips, not just so that they're comfortable, but so that the active noise cancellation really works well. Like, are you worried about it? Like if they're a little too small, do you have enough leakage that whatever it's doing to try to figure out what's going on outside versus inside the ear doesn't work very well? Or
the tips have a really great design to them. I'll try to show you. I'll show you my disgusting ear tips. Let's see if I can do this. It might be too. So yeah, it's got this very wide fit to it. It's not one of those double tiered ones or anything. It's got a nice wide tip. So even size small ear tip, it's likely that it will create that seal in anyone's ear because it's designed to kind of,
expand,
push itself out without being painful. It's designed to push itself out and give you that seal. So I've never had to fiddle or, maneuver it or anything to make sure that the seal is there. It just happens. As soon as I put them in my ear, I get the official seal. In fact, just now, taking that out of my ear, the ambient noise in the air sounded weirdly loud to me in my ear that was just naturally listening to sound. It suddenly was like, wow, there's a lot of like fan noise out here that I never noticed before. Because that seal, it just kind of takes away all that kind of like, the noise of your computer and all that kind of stuff. It just takes away all of that. So
I want to be back in the Matrix. Send me back to the Matrix.
And Andy, speaking to that question as well, I've used Bose Quiet Comfort in-ear earbuds for airplane rides and things like that for a while, and it's a similar kind of fit where it's almost less about creating that perfect in-ear monitor seal and more about getting a good enough lock in your ear that when the ANC is active, so I would say the seal is
inside
not
versus outside.
Yeah, exactly. It's not so important that if you jostled the ear pod or the AirPod, that then suddenly the ANC feature wouldn't work as well. I've found it to be, I can just sort of pop them in. I don't have to think too much about how I push them in, and it still does a good job of keeping that sound out. So yeah, I don't think that it needs to be an exactly perfect fit for it to work, which is one of the reasons that I think I've been so impressed with it. Going back to the Echo Buds really quick, just sort of as a comparison there are a lot more fit options with the Echo Buds, and I'm seeing some people in the chat who are talking about how their left AirPod Pro was not, they could not get it to fit for them. And so they ended up having to send them back. And it worked for the right one, but the left one didn't, because you don't necessarily have symmetrical ear canals. And I hope that, I was just thinking about this yesterday, I hope that Comply, which makes all sorts of materials of custom ear tips for all sorts of in-ear headphones and whatnot. I hope they're working on a pair for AirPods Pro, or multiple designs, because they've got like the sweat waterproof design. They've got the comfort design, and I can't remember what the other ones are, because I really do like Comply ear tips. And I think that for some folks who need to have multiple sizes, that would be good. One of the things that I want to sort of celebrate Apple on. In fact, Renee, whenever he first got his hands on these AirPods Pro, he sort of called me out on Twitter because he knows how grossed out I am by earwax and that whole thing. I'm happy that my body produces earwax and it helps with my, like, it does what it's supposed to do. I'm happy that it does what it's supposed to do, but it grosses me out. And so he was saying specifically to me, he let me know that Apple said that you can get some replacement tips for very little money. But aside from the fact that you can get replacement tips, what Apple has done this time that I think is so great is the tips of the device, you know, the things that you can take off and replace. They have what is essentially what they call in other headphone tips an earwax blocker or earwax grid or yeah, exactly. It has gutters. And so you don't end up clogging the actual speaker in the actual AirPod like you would with the last generation models with earwax. Instead, it goes into the tip. Yeah, see, so Lori's holding up right now the speaker, and that is completely covered by a wax guard when you click the headphone tip on. And I think that's great. That's going to make them easier. It's going to mean that you're going to have less replacements and you're not going to have so many issues with them, going bad. Or in my case, so I wanted to run an experiment. I have accidentally washed my AirPods in the past, not the AirPods Pro, but my AirPods, and they were fine afterward. Well, for the longest time, the AirPods that I have, one of them, I've talked about this before, but one of them completely didn't put out any sound, and the other one put out sound at about 50% of its normal volume. And so since I got AirPods Pro, and the only other thing I could have done was thrown away the AirPods, I decided to take the AirPods out of the case, put them into a Delicate's laundry bag, zip it up, and put them in with my wash and see what would happen. I washed them and took them out, let them dry, and I put them in my ears, and the one that was at 60% volume was up to about 90% volume, and the one that I haven't been able to hear out of for months actually was putting out sound. So it was genuinely earwax and dust, and I'm going to get sick, grossed out here, but it was genuinely all of those things that were causing the issue with me being able to hear sound out of it. So that is part of the reason why these things are so horribly, the longevity of them is such an issue, is because we are humans who produce different types of fluids that end up, fluids and materials that end up clogging up these speaker grills. So I'm happy that Apple's working on that, or has changed up that process a little bit.